Takes like a week. All right. Welcome back to the Real Estate Locker Room, folks. I'm your host, Jhn Carney, and thank you for tuning in to the podcast and taking some time out of your busy day and spending some of it with us. I'm truly grateful for all you return listeners out there. It's your participation in coming back week after week that keeps me inspired and coming back for more. If this is your first time tuning into the show, welcome. The goal here is to deliver you some actionable advice to help you elevate your real estate game today, to continue to raise the bar in your specific area of expertise, whatever that might be in the real estate industry. Whether you're a new investor or an industry pro, welcome to the show that believes that real estate is a team sport. Today is episode number 90 with my guest, Kevin Bupp. And we're going to jump into everything that has to do with investing in multiple asset classes. Welcome to the show, Kevin.
John, thanks for having me. Looking forward to being here.
Awesome. Well, I'm coming at you today from sunny Cleveland, Ohio. Where are you?
I am coming at you from sunny Clearwater, Florida.
Awesome.
So, yeah. Fairly warm out today, which is, I think it's 80 or 82, 83 degrees. Pretty hot outside right now, but I like it.
Yeah, I'm a hot environment type person. All right, well, cool. You know, before we kick off into your success story, I'd love for you to share the story behind Sunrise Capital and kind of take our audience on your real estate journey and really dig into your area of expertise. I'd love to stretch out real quick. And we do that by asking a few questions related to sports.
Okay.
You cool?
I'm cool, man.
Right on. Did you grow up playing any sports when you were a kid or participate today?
Yeah. So I played, baseball and basketball were like the two primary team sports that I played growing up, just, through high school. Didn't play any collegiate sports or anything like that. So, and then today I don't play either one other than maybe couple years back, a few like recreational softball leagues, like co-ed softball leagues, which is more like drinking beer afterwards and hanging out with friends than actually playing a sport. But I'm as far as what I've done as an adult sport wise, I'm huge into cycling, like road cycling. I don't necessarily race per se, but I ride with a lot of different amateur racers on a regular basis. And so that's the way I stay in shape. That's what I really enjoy. That's what I spend a lot of my free time doing. And that's been a big part of my life for the last 10 or 11 years or so.
That's awesome. Are there any of the professional athletes in the cycling world that you gravitate towards?
Yeah, I know it probably gets mixed reviews based on how it's ultimately played out, but Lance Armstrong, I mean, the guy's just a huge inspiration. And, obviously everyone has gone through their troubles, through life, through their careers, what have you. And, you're either on one side of the table or the other, but he was a huge inspiration when I got into the sport. I still appreciate everything that he had done as a professional cyclist. And even today, I listen to his podcast on a regular basis. I think he's a very impressive individual, philanthropist, and business person. So.
Yeah, I mean, you could have a whole podcast talking about Lance.
Yeah,
exactly. I'm on the Lance side of the fence where I admire a lot of the adversity that he's overcome. Mm-hmm. I'm not necessarily agreeing with the way he got there, but
agree.
I was fortunate enough to live in Australia during the Cadell Evans days, and so he was a big, obviously, mm-hmm. That's a big global sport, and they say in Australia that cycling's the new golf.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
Did not know that.
Oh, it was pitched to me. But I'm a mountain biker, and I couldn't give up I couldn't get into the skinny tires. But
if I had mountains around here, I'd probably be into both.
Yeah, it's fun. Well, cool. So real estate, at the end of the day is what we're talking about. And, let's talk about, the beginning of your success story and please share, what you offer your clients with Sunrise Capital.
Yeah, so Sunrise Capital Investors was formally founded about 5 years ago. However, I've been a full-time investor since basically the age of 19. I was introduced to real estate. At that point, I was just attending community college, attending bar part-time in the evening just to kind of make my way through school and to, keep a roof over my head and pay my car insurance, right, and have spending money. And I got lucky to get introduced at a young age. I wasn't really looking for it. It kind of found me through a good friend of mine. And I just gravitated towards his lifestyle. He was about 25 years older than I, and just lived a very different lifestyle than that of which I grew up in. My parents always gave us what we needed, but they were both very much blue collar workers, and we never went without. And so I'm not going to play the whole pity story. We didn't have anything, couldn't eat some days. That wasn't us, but we also didn't live a lavish lifestyle, and always had debt. And parents took one vacation a year, one family vacation, which we saved up for the entire year. And however, David, the guy that introduced me to real estate, he lived a very different lifestyle, and I found that intriguing. I found it intriguing that he had properties that ultimately had income coming in on a regular basis, based on having tenants in place there. And they also helped pay down his mortgage. And there was a lot of tax benefits, which I didn't really understand so much at that point in time. But as I got into it and dug into it, I could see how that would ultimately benefit me as I grew into an adult and made real estate a bigger part of my life. And so that's what I did. I followed David around for literally like 14 months, helping him whenever I wasn't in school or attending bar. I would go to his home office. I'd meet him out in the field. I would basically do whatever he needed me to do. I was call me as admin assistant. I worked for free. I just wanted to be around what it was he was doing so I could learn it myself. And ultimately I ended up buying my first investment property when I was 20 with like $7,000 I'd saved up tending bar. Had a private investor I had built a relationship with through David. It was basically his contact that I had gotten to know over the year or so. And he helped me, fund that property. I basically put every dime I had in my savings into that property and fixed it up the best I knew how. I didn't have any construction experience. Took a lot of guidance from David, and ended up selling it. I got a tenant put in there and ended up selling it a few months down the road, made a profit from it, got all my capital back and then some, and did it again. And realized that there was really something to this. And again, it became my life. That became my focus. Did a number of deals for the first couple of years, not a lot. And ultimately moved to Florida. This is from Pennsylvania where I grew up, moved down to Florida in 2002 and really hit the ground running, and started buying in a very big way, running all the way up to the last crash of 2008. So, acquired hundreds of single family properties, hundreds of multifamily doors, amongst other miscellaneous commercial types of real estate. And again, it became my life. It was my business. I had found the career that I fell in love with, and financially it treated me very, very well. And so moving up to where we're at today, I lost everything in 2008, basically had to start over. Really didn't start that process until 2011, and was introduced to mobile home parks, which is one of the primary asset classes that we focus in today at Sunrise Capital Investment. And bought a number of parks back in 12 and 13 and 14 with my own money, and money that I had acquired through private lenders and private investors and such. And then ultimately realized that was a business I wanted to scale in mobile home parks. And that's when Sunrise Capital Investors was founded. It was founded for that purpose initially, as far as focusing solely on mobile home parks. However, very recently, we've actually added another asset class to the spectrum, which are parking lots and parking garages. So now today we focus mobile home parks and also parking assets. So garages and surface lots and major MSAs.
That's fantastic. I mean, I'm going to just rewind it back a second. I mean,
Sure.
It's a true entrepreneur story, and and every entrepreneur just talks about it with a lot of humility. And I mean, you started with the first deal, $7,000, and did all the work and figured it out. I like the saying that success leaves clues. How valuable was that experience for you when you look back on it?
It was huge, and I have to preface it by saying that I probably wouldn't have had the guts to do it if it wasn't for the relationship I had built with David. I got to see what risk kind of meant before I took it myself, at least to a certain extent. It still was very painful to, it took me years to save up $7,000, tending bars, sweating my butt off like on Friday and Saturday nights, right? Hustling around, serving drinks to people. And so it was still very painful to watch all that money leave my bank account and not know whether or not it would come back in. And so as far as the clues that were left, David left a lot that I grabbed onto and used as a guiding path, a guiding light. And he was always there for me to kind of lean on his shoulder. He let me fumble a number of times, just because he knew I had to in order to figure it out myself. Like he wasn't going to always be there for me. And so there was definitely some painful parts of that experience. If going back, Dave and I kind of laughed about it, but I should have never bought in that neighborhood. It was a horrible, horrible neighborhood. It was a war zone, and David knew it, but he wanted me to figure out. He knew I would make money if I did it right, but he knew that it was going to be even more of a challenge than what I anticipated. So I learned very quickly that just because you pay $10,000 for a house doesn't mean that it's a good deal, right? Even if it's a decent house, if it's in the wrong neighborhood or wrong market, wrong part of town, that risk will not offset the potential good deal that you see on the front side. So that was one of the big lessons I learned very quickly, and I never bought in that neighborhood or that vicinity of town again. That was the first and last time.
I really have to pause and wonder, so when you talk about clues or common threads,
yeah.
I mean, the stories, align in the fact that we've had a lot of guests and we're in different sectors and different industries, but it seems that the passion started at a young age. Doesn't mean you have to be young to get into this game, but it started out, there was some type of mentor or guiding light. And then, you start out painting, if you're not, I like to say, painting a house or fixing a toilet or doing something you don't even know how to do, with a deadline of people about to move in and give you real money for the product and service you're claiming to provide, and you've got no experience. That's a powerful experience. And then we've seen people take that, and they say, and all of a sudden you've got, right, like 10, 20 years later, a large scalable business in
right.
parking lots. Is there any of the good stuff in between that you'd like to share in to help people avoid, painful mistakes, and part of avoiding painful mistakes is coming to people like yourself who've made them and know how to avoid them.
Yeah, it's a very appropriate question given the time we find ourselves in today, and I'm not sure exactly when this will get released, but dealing with the COVID-19 pandemic, it seems as though everyone, I don't care if you even ask 10 major economists, everyone is very unclear about what these coming months are going to look like. I mean, the leader of our country is very unclear and has been. Its medical experts have been very unclear as to what the coming months are going to look like. Going through 2008, it absolutely just crushed me. And I that's the first downturn I'd ever been through. And I thought I was being very conservative leading up to it. And I was really just modeling what a lot of others around me were doing that, they defined as being conservative as well. And I realized very quickly within a matter of like 6-7 months that my business, number one, it wasn't very conservative when you stress tested it, from multiple different angles. And number two, it wasn't very recession resilient given the crash of 2008. And some of the big factors were, and this is nothing against single family, because obviously there's many very successful companies out there that have built very large single family portfolios, rental portfolios. However, I found that there was a lot of inefficiencies in my single family portfolio. I had 122 single family homes when the market crashed, and they were spread out amongst multiple different counties. And just the whole management aspect of it was very inefficient. In addition to that, they were, they were all, C-class, which is mostly what we invest in today. However, in Florida back then, the real estate industry, construction industry, basically was a majority of where our tenants worked, and that's what they did as far as a line of work and for income. And so when the real estate market crashed, we had a mass exodus of tenants that moved out. They had to move out. They had no jobs. A lot of them moved out of state. They just went to another state where there might have been work. But the other big risk factor that existed back then that absolutely crushed me in the single family space was back then there was a lot of speculative builders, single family home builders down in Southwest Florida. I'm talking like building thousands upon thousands of rooftops for populations that weren't here and they weren't coming at that point. And so we were very quickly exposed to the risk of, well, these folks have, these builders have these brand new homes, lots of them in inventory, and they started renting them out because they weren't selling. I mean, the funding completely dried up. There was no funding available for new home buyers, and so they started renting these homes out, and basically crushed any cash flow that we had. In addition to that, our equity, these homes were upside down within a matter of a year. Across the board, initially we were at like a 67% loan to value, which again I thought was very conservative. but that went by very quickly. And so what I realized is that I was so hung up on the conservative low loan to value that we had on these properties. And I wasn't paying enough attention to what real cash flow they produce. But in addition to that, really what our burn rate was, or what, where was that risk threshold of, if we lost a certain amount of occupancy, where did it get to the point to where we were negative cash flowing? Forget about the equity that's on paper. It's not spendable money, right? And that went poof like that. I mean, we literally lost like $20 million in a matter of 6 months. And so looking back, I realized that I really didn't put those properties or my business model through the stress test that it should been put through. And moving forward with our business today is very, very different. We're still very conservative. We don't take a lot of debt out in our properties. However, we run them through multiple different stress tests. We run through scenarios such as where we're at today. We just did an exercise last week with every one of our individual properties, and then our company as a whole, as far as on a property by property level, how much vacancy can we actually support within that property? And, based on the liquid reserves that we have for the individual property, and then as a company, what's our burn rate? How bad will it get, or how bad can it get? And what's the worst case scenario to where we literally are pushed off a cliff and we truly can't carry our debt load, assuming, 10, 20, 30% of our residents don't pay. And so, we're in a very good spot, generally speaking. Again, no one knows really how bad this might get. If you get on any social media feed now and there's landlords in there or property owners, everyone's questioning, are my tenants going to pay me this month? Right? Are they going to pay next month in May? If they don't pay, are the bank's going to work with me? There's so many unknowns right now. And so anyway, we feel very comfortable where we're at, but we built the business based on what had, hurt me really bad back in 2008, and ensured that we would try as much as possible to build a business that could avoid and make it through a recessionary period again. So, and here we are today, very much a black swan event, very tough times ahead of us for our country. I don't think it's going to be over anytime soon. And the lasting impacts will be significant here over the coming years, I believe. So.
I agree. I mean, we're in a similar position, but right now at April 2nd, 2020,
yeah.
I met with our property management team yesterday, and surprisingly, they're having conversations, and we have a company policy based upon flexibility with guidelines. But we're trying to get through. We tried to get through last week. Some days it was hour by hour, and then in others it was day by day. But we're kind of, our big test, because we didn't stress test our business like you had, is getting through mid-April and then preparing for March. And it is uncertain times, but if you focused your team on ways to if any new innovations come out to better serve your residents or your tenants, that you feel will keep them at least in place and have them stay with your management company?
That's a great question. So we have our own management company, so we're vertical. And so we don't have a third party management that we're working through. And so that's a great question. So, and I'll back up a little bit. What we did is, 3 weeks ago, when this was truly becoming real, certain parts of the country started seeing the significant impact quicker than others. But 3 weeks ago, the writing was on the wall. Gosh, even 2 months ago, I personally kind of saw the writing. I knew this was going to turn into something much bigger. I just felt it. And I'm not even a conspiracy theorist. I've been following this thing since basically the first week of January, before it was even considered to be a threat to the U.S. And I don't know why. It just felt like it was going to be something much bigger. And I never envisioned it would be to where it's at today. But I had this fear in the back of my mind. And in any event, so 3 weeks ago, we really started a strategic mission with the team, as far as this, number one, getting everyone on the same page and giving them a clear picture of the good, the bad, the ugly of what potentially could come. It's being the owner of the company, it's a little different. You got to figure this shit out. You got to get through it. But I feel like our personality as entrepreneurs is very different than that of a lot of employees, right? But you want to instill faith that that no matter what happens, we'll do our best to work through this as a team, collectively, together. And so we've really we brought our entire team together. We've been having these conversations, mostly some of them leadership, just leadership part, but like we've actually been bringing most of our team members into most of our conversations because we don't want them to be in the dark. Again, every day there's something new that's coming out, a new piece of news or information that we've got to adapt to. And so 3 weeks ago, we really started that process, educating them on, where we're at as a company financially, what worst case scenario looks like for us, the threats we see, the opportunities we see that could come about of this. And so as far as for like the resident base, our objective is to keep them in their home. I mean, we do not want them leaving their home. I don't want them to be forced out of their home. And so we've attempted to take a very open line of communication and compassion, empathetic approach with our residents. I know everyone's kind of approaching it differently. We felt like getting out in front of it and opening up the lines of communication as much as possible and helping provide resources for them, being the sounding board for them. Folks are going through financial hardships right now that, a lot of us can't even fathom what that's like, especially folks that live on a month-to-month basis or paycheck-to-paycheck basis. So one of the things that we've done internally as a team is we literally hired, she worked for us. So we basically pivoted one of our individuals' roles into a COVID-19 hotline. And so that's one of the resources that we've given all of our residents. So Alba is available basically Monday through Friday and on Saturdays to call if you're having hardships. She's got a whole protocol in place as far as what's your hardship caused by, obtaining proof from them, and then also working on a payment plan. So they know that there is an option for them to stay in their home should they have a financial impact from this COVID-19 pandemic, and that we're here to work with them through it. And this is a team effort. This isn't landlord versus tenant or tenant versus landlord. This is we've got to work through this as a team if we want to come out the other side together. And so we've been really trying to position ourselves and align ourselves with our tenants as hey, we're here to fight together. This isn't anyone standing alone on an island. Like, we're all in the same situation, some to different extreme levels than other, but like this is an effort where, we're waging against this war as a team, and we ultimately want everyone to come through it as unscathed as possible. So I think that's important. It's hard to say where we're at today as of April 2nd. I will say that I've been communicating with Alba and the rest of our team, but she's like our front line. So I've been communicating with her probably like every couple of hours. Like we communicate through Slack, and I'll send her Slack just to find out what the call volume looks like and how many of our folks are actually requesting workouts. That's going to tell me of really how severe the hardships might be in our individual communities. And to date, I don't want to jinx myself, but we've had very, very, very few workout programs put in place. We've allowed folks now we've transitioned our business to where we can take credit card payments over the phone. We're setting up some of the elderly folks that don't know how to use online payments. We're setting them up with ACH withdrawal out of their account. So Alba's doing all that. So they basically have a concierge at their fingertips that will help them through whatever challenges they find themselves in. But to date, again, knock on wood, it's been pretty positive. We've had a lot of positive feedback and haven't had too many people yet ask for a workout plan, and we're early in the month, so time will tell.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that, Kevin. Everything that you just said sounds like, it just sounds like the smart, right thing to do, right? But I can't imagine that everyone's doing it that way, but that certainly seems to be the prudent approach, because we are all in this together, every one of us around the world. And, we're very lucky and fortunate to live in a first world country where Amazon delivers everything to your front door.
You're right.
When I put on the entrepreneur hat and say the good old days of February aren't really coming back, to the way they used to be, because not with the sorrow face, but like, hey, there's going to be some innovation that comes out of this.
Yes.
Across the board, we got a ton of super smart, successful people in this country, and they'll just figure out ways to do it better. And this is, pushing aside a little bit that, yes, my wife was a nurse before she became a full-time mom, and she understands the stress coming for the healthcare system, right?
Mm-hmm.
That stress on the healthcare infrastructure that we're trying to avoid by social distancing and staying at home. And so that's her big concern. But, I agree. I think our team has come together a lot more cohesively. I'm checking with people a lot more often, and all of a sudden I know a lot more about what's happening in the day to day, and able to add value and help. So it's we've got people working remotely in roles that have never done that before, and they've figured out how to do things generally when they are on site, and how to do things from home. So
Yeah.
you gotta look at the upside. I think sometimes, or the bright side of what's happening, but it is uncertain times, and you really, I don't know that I've made more phone calls that I've been on the phone more in my life than I have over the last 2 weeks, from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. It seems like.
Yeah, there's a lot going on a daily basis. I will say that it's been kind of a blessing in disguise, but I mean, we're very close with our team members. But a couple of things kind of transpired is that we actually had already planned on ending the lease to our office space, and so this is kind of it timed out just right. And so we were already set up to go virtual. We've got a lot of team members across the country in our individual communities and things like that. So we've always had a virtual infrastructure, but we had a corporate office with a number of folks working out of the corporate office. But we made a decision, I guess, about 4 or 5 months ago to actually not renew our lease in our office space. And so we really we really lucked out because we didn't have to do anything. We pretty much were already working remote a month ago and still had the office. It expired at the end of the March, and we just kind of stepped right in and didn't have any hiccups or anything of that nature. But the interesting thing that's played out because of us going remote is I feel that we've connected on, which is strange. It's very counterintuitive to how you think it might work out, but we've all connected on a much higher level, the corporate team, that is. I don't know why that is. I can't even explain it because we share office walls before, but what we found ourselves doing, and the reasoning behind going remote, was we started using Slack about a year ago, and it's a phenomenal tool. Probably one of the biggest game changers in our business. And we found ourselves going into the corporate office, and other than set meetings, like we have a Tuesday morning leadership meeting, then we have a Thursday operational meeting. There's a couple structured meetings we'd have weekly where all of us would go in the conference room. But other than that, a lot of times there would be days where I would communicate with the entire team that was sitting in the same office as I, but I wouldn't see them. It was through Slack, and I'm like, what's this a little ridiculous that we're using this amazing communication tool, but we're actually not like physically being around each other. And so we should just end this office lease and not spend $5,000 a month. And anyway, it's allowed us to get a lot closer using Zoom and things of that nature. So I feel like I see our team members more via Zoom on a weekly basis than what I did when we shared a physical office space. It's weird, but it's been a blessing in disguise for us.
Well, thanks for sharing that. I mean, all of that is valuable. So if our audience, if anyone's out there and you own investment properties, mobile home parks, single family homes, multifamily, there is a good practice approach, common sense approach right there for you that Kevin's laid out. Back to like when business is back to normal, or if we're going back to the good old days of February, what is the Sunrise, capital investors? What is it that you guys, are known for?
Yeah. So, and I don't think that we're ever going back to normal. I think there will be a new norm, but I don't think it'll ever be what it was like in February. I think that the world will be a completely different landscape, and, we're an adaptive species, so we'll figure it out. And at some point this will just be a blip on the historical radar screen, and we'll remember it. We'll talk about it. It'll be in history books, but other than that, life will go on and we'll continue living. But as far as, Sunrise Capital Investors, so we operate underneath fund structures. And so, the timing of this, again, its timing's never right, but it kind of worked out for us. We actually just closed out our second mobile home park fund at the end of last year. And so we've pretty much deployed, all the necessary capital that we need to for our partners. So we have accredited investors that basically partner with us on deals, and we help deploy their capital into financially responsible assets. Moving forward here, we had intended on rolling out another opportunity or fund here in the coming months, and we're still working on it behind the scenes. We're acting as though like things will get better and that we'll be able to, go back into a capital raising mode and start buying more deals. But we also are trying to be realistic that like it might be delayed a little bit. And so the future for us is to continue doing what we're doing, what we're really good at. We're really good at finding undervalued assets or mismanaged assets in phenomenal markets where we can buy below replacement cost. Both in the mobile home park space, and now, as I mentioned, one of the assets that we have recently added to our to our arsenal are parking, parking lots and parking garages. So we've actually got a number of deals under contract today. A lot of those will probably get extended, as time goes on and as we figure out exactly how this is going to play out. But we're ready. The one regret I had, and I don't have any regrets other than this one, is that after 2008 occurred, it drug on with me on the financial side, drug on for like 3 years. I mean, it was just very painful working through all the headaches associated with owning a bunch of property and having, debt go delinquent and things like that. Is that I didn't recapitalize. I didn't get my head out of the sand per se, and realize that, okay, tough times. However, tough times also equal opportunity. We all know that you buy low, sell high. You buy when there's blood in the street. It was very hard for me to visualize that or get myself out of my own bubble because it was my own blood that was in the street. And so I had a really hard time mentally getting through that. Looking back now, I'm like, man, if I'd have just got my act together very quickly, there would have been a lot of opportunity in 9, 10, 11, and 12 that we could have capitalized on that we really missed out on. So I don't want to sound insensitive by saying that there's a little bit of an excitement's not the word, but I can't think of a better word to use at this point of what is transpiring. Because I don't like that there's deaths occurring from this. I mean, it's a very unfortunate situation. People are out of work. I mean, it's unfortunate across the board, but I do think that real estate needs a little bit of a reset. And we're also going to feel pain from it. So this isn't something I'm going to, avoid. Our company's going to avoid. We're going to have pain as well, but I'm looking forward to opportunities that could come out on the other side. And so time will tell, but I'll be ready this next time around, I guess is where I'm getting at. I'll be ready to pick up on the opportunities that present themselves.
Right. But you're ready now because you've been practicing. And I mean, it just all goes back to the.
I had unplanned practice in 2008, 9, and 10. Yeah, it was unplanned, but it was practice. It was forced practice.
Sure. It's that intersection. The whole premise behind real estate is a team sport. It's a book and the real estate law show. It's that intersection, right? And you just never. Just the analogy I use in this business. I mean, I feel the same way. I wouldn't say that excitement might not be the right word, but for the right person, there is like an anticipation. Maybe is a different way to look at it of what opportunities are going to present themselves because you've been working so hard and you've been through this before, similar situation. Now you at least feel prepared. Or you have the knowledge and experience now to capitalize on opportunities as they come their way, right? You can find the money. You've got clients that trust you. You've got an infrastructure and organization of a team around the country. And I mean, so you're ready, right? It sounds to me like you're rock and roll.
Yeah, absolutely. I like to think of it as, we've been incredibly financially responsible with the investments we made. And, it's been hard the last couple of years because I feel like we are overly conservative. We've probably missed out on, what the market perceived to be as a great deal, right? And so now I'm at the point where I'm like, okay, hopefully due to being financially responsible and very, maybe even overly conservative over the last couple of years, we might be able to be in a better position for those that maybe weren't as financially responsible, that bought on a lot thinner margins, that didn't set aside the necessary reserves or as much reserves as what, they might need to make it through these downtimes coming ahead. And so, again, it's really not a vulture mentality by any means, but I guess you could say we've been practicing now for a long time, 19 years that I've been doing this. And so now it's time to, exercise some of those skills that I've hopefully been able to acquire here over these last 19 years.
I'm sure you will. A business partner, of my father's who I work with, and his phrase, right, is played at the high level commercial development, and just asked him, what is the magic? And he says, staying power, gotta have it.
That's it.
Doesn't say much, but when he does say something, it is incredibly useful,
it's
value,
true.
worth going on a long run or cycle to think about, because it is the staying power that helps weather the storms. I'm just curious, and I want to circle back to it because as the emails started coming in from the accountants and the business colleagues and the insurance companies and everyone else that was kind of saying the same thing, I got a big PDF printed out, about stress testing your company. And we kind of did that by nature, but, you know, it was like, wow, we should have done this. You know, it almost should become a 6-month every, you know, once a year practice. You know, so you felt when you guys went through that, did it relieve some pressure? And how would you recommend?
Absolutely. Well, at least you got clarity, even if it doesn't look good. Like, even if like, you're like, oh, damn, we didn't really plan. At least you've got clarity, you know, I mean, at least you can mentally prepare for, we really didn't plan all that well, but I know exactly how bad it could possibly get. And again, you're going to lose sleep over it. It's going to be stressful, but at least you know, you're not just like, you know, swimming in a black sea where you can't see anything.
No one can go on indefinitely, no matter how successful you are. Even the big guys, the Apples of the world, the Teslas of the world. I mean, you can't just go on indefinitely. Well, I know folks in the manufacturing space, and, you know, like if you've got, it's just crazy to think that this would go on indefinitely. It can't.
Yeah. And I think you just have to adapt, and I think that's where the importance of like open lines of communication exists. You know, other than preparation, meaning like having the necessary reserves, you know, being a great leader for your team and your organization, being calm through a stressful, you know, time in this world, which is the majority of folks are stressed out of their mind. I handle stress a little differently. It's just I like to suggest that my dad, like that part of his DNA is what I really got from him. It drives my mom crazy. It drives my wife crazy because like I seem to get even calmer in incredibly stressful situations, which is just it's a weird thing that's ingrained in me. So, but it's a good thing when you're a leader. And so even if you're not that individual, force yourself to be that individual, be the voice of reason, be the calm person that has an optimistic outlook, but, you know, still a realistic grounding of like where you're really at. Like, don't ignore it. Like, we're in a bad time. We're in a crazy time that's going to get ugly, even uglier than what it is today. And so, anyway, I forget what the original question was. And I just went on a little tangent right there, but, and so maybe revert me back to what the original question was to make sure I've answered it.
You definitely have. It was just circling back to the stress test. And I mean, you know, this is, I suppose, my first official how to approach the COVID-19 podcast, and, you know, and we'll try and push that out as soon as possible because I think you're taking great steps. I admire the story and where you are today, but how you responded in ahead of the curve. So, you know, prepared and you know, realize that we're all in it together, including our residents or tenants, right? However, whatever word you choose.
Absolutely. And I'd say for folks that are listening that are, you know, if you have rental properties, whether you manage them yourself or you have a management company like you do, John, is be sure. I think in times like these, more communication is better than less communication. Obviously, it can't be aggressive type of communication like you better pay your rent or else. It can't be that. It's got to be truly in alignment of like we're in this together. We are feeling the same pain. It's an unfortunate situation. We hope it doesn't last very long. However, we're here to support you. We want to make this through together. But, you know, like, but not just once. Like, I'm talking like, set your business up again, even if you only have one property, like make sure that you are in constant communication with that tenant, that resident, and truly go into it with a mindset of like, how can you help them? You know, everyone's in their own situation and everyone's going through their own hardship, some worse than others, and just try to put yourself in their shoes and hear their pain and hear their angst and the challenges that they're facing, and be there to help them. I mean, as much as possible, right? It might be limited that you can help them, but still, make them aware that you're there as a resource for them. And as you learn things, as things develop, you know, for example, you know, some of the, like unemployment, a lot of folks that have lost their job, they've never had to file for unemployment before. Like, I know it sounds so simple. You just go to a website and you apply. That's not simple to some people still. Like, there's some people that just don't use a computer all that often. And so when you tell them just to go apply online, they might not even have a computer. And then they try to do it in their smartphone. And so like the girl at our office, Alba, she's our hotline, you know, operator, I guess you call her. She'll walk them through instructionally how to file for unemployment. I mean, be there, lend them a hand as much as you possibly can.
Yeah, and there's a lot of resources out there that
there's a ton. And don't think that people know what they are either, because there's not one collective location where they can get them. Seriously, it's very confusing to dig through the weeds and find out every additional resource that's really available for your tenants. It's hard to find. Don't expect that they're they're searching for it, and they know everything that's at their disposal, because they don't.
That exactly concur with that. And the more proactive you can be in helping anybody, especially your residents, your tenants, the people that are, paying you rent money to navigate this, other than being the right thing to do. I mean, it's going to help you in the long term, and you're going to find ways to innovate and just
yes,
sharpen the skill set and continue to grow your real estate business, or you're going to be out of business real quick. It's going to go
that's right.
So, well, look, Kevin, I really appreciate, sharing all these insights, and very relevant to what we're doing today. A couple of parting questions I like to ask all our guests. Are there any books that you've read recently that you recommend people put on their reading list and dig into during the lockdown?
Yeah, there's one. It's a short read, but it's a really good one. It's one that will help you, hopefully forget about some of your own problems and maintain the mindset of you're here on this earth to help other people, right? To enrich the lives of others. And it's called The Go-Giver. So I forget who the author is. I can never remember his darn name, but it's a short book. It's an easy read, but it's a phenomenal 150 pages of just invaluable knowledge and information there. So I don't know. Have you ever read it, John?
Never read it. Haven't heard about it. I mean,
yeah.
Episodes we've got a few that come up again, but we also have new books that haven't. So we'll track down the author for you and get it in the show notes. But thanks for.
I had it here. It's probably it's in here somewhere. I just got done reading it the other week. But anyway, it helps you. Again, just really reground yourself and know that I personally feel that we're here to, help enrich in the lives of others, that are around us. And, if you just focus your energy on helping others, that ultimately, the universe will ultimately pay you back tenfold. So again, not to get all philosophical or, what have you. It's just, I think that's a philosophy that we've lived by as a company, and I have as an individual for a long, long time. So, and I think it's important, especially in scary times like we find ourselves in today.
Yeah, certainly. I noticed that you looked at your bookshelf, like what I'm doing.
Yeah, I got a couple that. Well, I got like one there, and I have my stuff's in a disarray right now because we just moved from our office. So I have a home office with a bookshelf, but then I had a bookshelf in my office that it's still in boxes, so I don't know where it's at right now.
Funny, people will be in my office and be like, "Oh, can I borrow this?" I'm like, "No, I'll buy you one, but you can't borrow that." So,
right.
All right. Look, you've achieved a lot over your career. Is there a habit or a pro tip that you can give out to the audience that helps keep you focused, keep you grounded? What should we all be doing to get to the next level?
Yeah, I think for me, I could speak to what I think is important, and this is one thing that really helped me get through the years following 08, because it wasn't just like a crash and then I got back up on it. It was a number of years where I dealt with a lot of struggle and financial hardship. And so it was health and fitness. Like what I realized, and I was always in health and fitness, cycling or working out, a combination of all the above before that. And I always was very conscious of my diet. However, in 2008, what I realized, the only thing I had control over was like my mind and my body. Everything else was completely out of my control. And so I really got deeper ingrained into just as long as I could feel good on a daily basis, like I could wake up with energy, I was clear, clear focus, my brain was working, firing on all cylinders, that I'd be able to get through no matter how stressful that day was going to be, no matter how many process servers were going to knock at my door that day and deliver me with the lawsuit. I would work through it because I felt good. And so I think that in times like, all the time, everyone should really be focused on their diet and have a healthy lifestyle, some type of structure in their day and their week to get a workout in. But even more important in times like we're in today, you'd be amazed if you don't have a workout regimen. You'd be amazed at how a good hard sweat, even if it's just a jog, man, go jog for a mile or 2 or 3 and do a couple sprints. You'll be amazed at how different your stressful day turns out if you start your day off with that. So
keep it moving. All right, Kevin.
That's it, man.
That was awesome. Hey, I really appreciate you joining us in the locker room today. Where can the audience find you and learn more about your products and services?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So two different places. My main personal website's kevinbupp.com, just my first last name, kevinbupp.com. There you can listen to, I host two different podcasts. So I have one called Real Estate Investing for Cashflow, which I've been doing for 6 years now. We've got, I think, probably about 400 episodes. And we basically cover every commercial real estate asset class from an owner, operator, investor standpoint. And then I've got another one called the Mobile Home Park Investing Podcast. So you can listen to those podcasts on that website. You can also get links to our company website, which is sunrisecapitalinvestors.com. But, really kevinbupp.com has, the links to every different thing of what we got going on and the different businesses that we're involved in. So that'd be the best place.
Perfect. Those will get out there in the show notes. Well, there you have it, folks. I truly hope that you picked up some actionable advice that you can apply today during these trying times to your real estate business or your business in general, your life in general. We're all in this together, and Kevin's got some great practices that he's implemented and shared with us through his company, and that's the power of the podcast and the power of the network right there. We're all here to learn something from each other and add value to the folks that are out there spending their time with us. So thank you, Kevin, and thank you everybody else who's tuned into this show. Make sure to check out the Real Estate Locker Room show on iTunes. We're on Stitcher, Google Play, Spotify, Heart Radio, all the common places where you'd expect to find a podcast. And the mission here is to help you elevate your real estate game. If you like what we're all about, we'd be super stoked if you would leave us a review so that other like-minded real estate people just like you are able to find us and when they're searching for content online. The post-game show notes related to this show and some additional links and contents, and we'll know the author for Kevin's book. It will be available on jhncarneyonline.com/podcast episode number 90. Remember, everybody, to stay focused on your goals, have fun, stay in the game. And until next time, I'm your host, Jhn Carney. Work hard, play hard, and raise the bar. And Kevin, please, keep up the good work, and thanks for the great advice, and stay healthy, my friend.
Yeah. Thank you, John. Thanks for having me, bud. And thanks for all that you do.
It's been great.